this one, but the next one.
Guys.
Yeah.
Hi, welcome everyone.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Good morning.
Hello. All right. Hello. Good to see everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started because we're 2 after the hour. So my name is Erin West, and I am on Wi-Fi's Professional Development Committee. And I have assumed the role of helping plan power hours, which is what we are here today. So we will go ahead and we have a few slides just to tell you about the Wi-Fi organization for those of you that are first timers here. So Wi-Fi. So Wi-Fi was founded on International Women's Day. So we just celebrated our 5th year anniversary. So Wi-Fi just turned 5 years old just 10 days ago. So we are a young organization, but we are a powerful one. And I am honored to be a part of it. And I have taken so much. So thank you to all for joining us today. Our activities are available to women in support of women in the flooring industry. Our programs include scholarships for secondary and continuing education and presenting of professional development and mentoring programs. So we have a scholarship program. It's offered for post-secondary and continuing education. We just closed this year's round of scholarships, so stay tuned for the next scholarship program. Our mentoring program. So our next cohort is starting soon. We have the application still available on our website. Everything that you see on these slides today, you can find on the website afterwards. We have had a wonderful sign up for our cohort that is about to start. We do need a few more mentors. So those of you strong female leaders on the call today, if you are able to consider being a mentor, we would appreciate it. The time commitment, is we average, we anticipate it's, about an hour, maybe a little bit over an hour in a month, and you can really make a difference in someone's life. Everybody that has been a part of this program as a mentor has also taken something from their mentee. So it really works both ways. So please consider joining our mentor program if you are able to. Our book club. So this is our second book we are about to start. This is a passionate for me because I would not have normally signed up for a book club. It's our first book is not normally something I would have picked up on my own. I was encouraged by a wonderful woman of this organization to join it. So thankful that I did. I took so much from it, and I'm now reading it again. So this book club has not started yet. We have our kickoff calls coming soon, and you do not need to have anything read ahead of time. So if you just want to kind of learn a little bit more about what the book club entails, please just join the kickoff call and see what it's about. Thank you to our 2 wonderful hosts that are now have turned in a kind of a pilot program into now something that we are able to host again. And our upcoming events. These are all of our in-person upcoming events. We also have virtual events like today's, but you can check all of these out. They're typically aligned with some of our industry shows. So please stop by if you are planning on attending any of these conventions and just say hi. All right, and without further ado, I am honored to introduce today's guest speaker, Michelle Nix. She is a seasoned leadership professional. She's based in Dalton, Georgia, where she lives with her husband of 37 years and their 2 Australian shepherds, Hope and Faith. She has a career for 38 years at Shaw Industries. She has dedicated her work to developing people and strengthening organizations. Her expertise includes executive and mid-level talent development, succession planning, one-on-one coaching, team leadership, and practical leadership principles. She's passionate about helping individuals grow, both personally and professionally. Michelle has built a reputation for making people better at work and home. Outside her professional life, she enjoys hiking, camping, spending time outdoors, being active in her church, and connecting with her friends. So without further ado, please help me welcome Michelle.
Thank you so much, Erin. Hi, everyone. It's so good to be here with all these women and professional women today, and I was so honored that Andrea asked me to participate. Y'all, I'm still drinking coffee. I'm not going to get a wink of sleep tonight. I just want you to know it's been one of those mornings, as you all have had mornings like that before. You just got to have the coffee to be able to go throughout your day. So today we're going to talk about how we look at one, how do we manage our calendar, which is very important, our work calendar, our personal calendars. How do we look at and how do we gauge this, what they call this work-life balance, that we're all trying to strive to achieve at some points in our life. Today you're going to hear some things that may be new to you, but again, you're going to hear some things that you've already known. But it's good to be reminded of it. I think one of the things that I was reminded of as I was putting together this material, one, I don't do all these things, and I should. So it kind of held me a little bit accountable to make sure that I'm incorporating some of these things, into my day-to-day and making sure that I'm not missing the most important moments, throughout the day, whether that be at work or whether that be in my personal life too. Maddie is going to put in to the chat two documents. One is going to be like a note-taking guide. So if you're not able to take a lot of notes right now, don't worry, because everything that we're going to cover in this hour is going to be in that note-taking guide. There's one that's just for note-taking for this particular session, and I've also included one that's more faith-based. So those of you that want to be better at reading your Bible or your fellowship or your book study or your Bible study, that's in there for you, as well. So I have both of those in there. Also, I will say, I don't know if you can hear it, but they chose today to cut the grass and to weed eat. So it's right outside this window. So if you hear that, that's what's happening here too. So they're trying to get their time in and do their day work. So let's get started. I'm going to ask you a question. Make sure you utilize the chat. I know you can't talk to us, and that's fine. And I know you may be, you're driving in your car, or you may be eating your lunch or whatever, but I'm going to ask you a few questions. If you would just kind of chat in your answers. If you had to say on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being very low, I'm not doing a very good job of it, and 10, I'm killing it. Right now, if you had to give a rating 1 to 10, where would you say your work-life balance is on a scale from 1 to 10? And just kind of chat that in to the chat. We're going to start with a scale first. So some of y'all are already typing in. Oh, a 1. Yes, I'm the 1. I know I'm not doing a very good job of it. We got 4. I'm trying to look at all the things. They're coming in. Oh, we have a variety. They're all over the place, which is great. Yes. So what makes us feel that way? What makes us feel, if we scored less, than 5 or so, what makes us feel like we're not accomplishing that work-life balance? Put in a word or two into the chat. What makes us feel that way? What's happening in our lives? Trying to see all of the chats. One of the things I find too is that makes me feel that I'm not achieving this work-life balance is, I'm overly responsible for different things, and so I get too involved with more than just one task at a time. And a lot of that is my behavior. And if those of you that have ever gone through any kind of behavior trying to talk about, are you that type A personality or whatever, a lot of that attributes to my stress. I want to do it all at one time, and I want to do everything perfect too. So I see here you've got mom guilt. Yes, got it. Taking things home from work. Work never stops. Even though we're sitting and watching a show, that phone still goes off, those emails still go off, and we feel obligated sometimes to go through and answer all those things as well. The work life, the family, like trying to be with the family when we're with the family, but we're still working. And when we're at work, we want to be with the family. So those things that go back and forth, those struggles that we have, from day to day. So why does a balance feel harder? What some of the things that we just talked about here? It's hard for us sometimes to say no. I don't know what it is, but sometimes it's just hard for us. We want to be able to help everyone and help get things done. So it's very difficult. So we always say yes, then we overcommit. And then we feel guilty that we can't help, or we feel like we're not achieving what the request was, or be able to help that person. Sometimes we want to be perfect. Everything we do, we want it to be perfect, and sometimes it's not. So that's that frustrating thing. So sometimes that gets in the way too. Over responsibility that we talked about earlier, just over committing to something or someone, or to a project that we know that we don't have time for even going in, but we still overcommit for that. And then we feel guilty sometimes when we're resting. Have you ever been like taking a break at home, just trying to sit down for just a moment, and you're thinking, I could be doing all these things and I'm not doing, or getting on your phone. I'm guilty of this, getting on your phone, going through Facebook or Instagram or any kind of social media. And you've been there, you think 5 minutes, and you've been there 35 minutes, and you could have been doing something else. So that guilt sometimes gets in the way. We may have a caregiver overload, making sure all the kids get where they need to be. We become Ubers and taxis, and we're living on the road, and we're eating dinner on the road, and all the things we're doing, in between different kinds of sports and different kinds of things we do and commitments. So anything else that you would add to that? Anything else that, what are some common patterns sometimes that get in the way of that work-life balance? One I see here is sometimes if we have lack of sleep, then everything kicks in with the mom guilt, and we're all exhausted. Then we have that attitude we taking on too many roles. I see that on here, too. So let's use this as a visual. I'm a real visual person, so I want you to kind of visualize with me. And this is something I learned years ago. It was from a class that I taught years ago. It was from a Franklin Covey session, and they talked about how we look at big rocks in our lives. And I've always gone back to that. It was such a very unique visual that I think about it from time to time, and I try to identify and keep in my mind what are those big rocks. So imagine our lives as an empty jar. Imagine our lives as an empty jar. We also have big rocks. Now, when I say big rocks, what I'm saying is, for me, my big rocks are my family, my faith, my friends, my health, my overall being, my mental state. Those are big rocks for me. Those are things that are very, very important to me. We also have big rocks, at work, which would be our job responsibilities, things that we know that we're accountable for. They have to be done from day to day. Those are big rocks. And then we have what I call the pebbles. And the pebbles are sometimes these smaller responsibilities, that we have. We have responsibilities at home. We have responsibilities at work. So smaller responsibilities at home could be loading the dishwasher or unloading the dishwasher. That's a responsibility. Do the laundry. That's a responsibility. At work, it could be checking your email, every day, or doing things or tasks, the things that you do at work. We call that the pebbles, the responsibilities. And then we have the sand. And the sand is where we get stuck, because the sand is the distractions, the things, the noise that we go through from day to day. Those are distractions. So what happens is, a lot of times, again, imagine our jar is empty, our jar is us. All that sand goes in first. All those distractions, all that noise. For me, it's like the waste of time things, which is the social media that I can go down a rabbit hole in very easy. Or it could be, I'm going to, all day Saturday, I'm just going to sit around and I'm going to binge watch whatever show all day long and not move all day long. So whatever those distractions or that noise that gets in the way, that's what we call the sand. If our jar is already full of sand, then there's going to be no room for those big rocks. There's going to be no room for those things that are the most important things, to us. And we're going to try to cram all of that in and fit those things in, and they're not going to fit. And they're going to be very frustrated. We're going to have all those things we talked about with the guilt and taking over too much and overcommitting to people and to things and to projects that we shouldn't be committing to anyway. And then after there's no room for those big rocks. There's also no room for those responsibilities, because they can take up space as well. So what we have to look at is, if I'm asking you today, look at your jar. Look at your jar today, your visual jar, and kind of decide where is the most full. Is it full of my big rocks? So the big rocks go in first. The big rocks go in first. Then we pour in the pebbles, and then whatever's left, then we pour in the sand. And that's the distractions and things that we have. So we always want to focus on those big rock things, those big rock moments, because those are the things that are most important, to us. If I looked at your jar today, what would I see? And that's something that I ask myself on a regular basis. What does my jar look like today? What does it feel like? Does it feel like it's just full of sand and that's it? Because some days we feel like that. Some days we feel like all we've done all day long is put out fires and been distracted or been taken away from the most important thing. So what does your jar look like? What gets scheduled gets protected. And I love that. I'm going to say it again. What gets scheduled gets protected. Meaning if I make time for it in my day and I schedule it, even if it's, I say in the afternoon when I get home from 6 to 7, my schedule is not to do anything but read. You can read whatever you want to, your Bible study, your book club, whatever it is from 6 to 7, I'm going to, because that's important to me and I'm going to do that. Or from 6 to 7, at my house, there's no electronics, no TV, no phones. It's just pure conversation from 6 to 7. Because what gets scheduled gets protected. And I love that. So being able to look at our day and making sure that we're scheduling those big rocks, those big moments in our day every day, because those are things we want to get protected. So let's talk about what gets in the way of that sometimes. And that happens with our boundaries. We've got to have those boundaries, those things that we have to learn in our lives that, we can't push forward. These are the things that are important to us. And here's the things that I'm going to protect. And I'm going to do that by setting a boundary, for that. One of the 3 boundaries that we're going to talk about first is time boundaries. And what I mean by time boundaries is it may be an example that, I've decided in my life I'm not going to do any thing after 6. When I get home after 6, it's family time. It's, playing games with the family, doing the homework, taking care of the things that are most important with family, having conversations, talking about our day, talking about the wins of the day, talking about the challenges of the day. So after 6, no commitments after that. That might be an example of one. I love this this comedian. I don't know if you all have heard of him. His name is Nate Bargatze. He's hilarious. He has a few a few shows on Netflix, and he talks about getting older. And one of the things that he talks about in his skit is, in our 20s, if someone calls and says, hey, you want to go out? You're like, yes, let's go out. We don't know where we're going. It doesn't matter where we're going. We're just going to go. And then he says, as we get older and our priorities change, he talks about, they call and they say, you want to go out? And he's like, yes. What time are we going? Is it noisy? Am I going to need a jacket? And I'm going to drive separate. Because what happens is now he's got a boundary, is what he's really saying is, I'm older now and things are different for me and things are important for me. So I want to make sure that I meet that. Me, I like to be home at 7:30 in my pajamas. That's just me. I like to do that. So if you want to go to dinner, we're going to go early because I want to be home by 7:30 and be in my pajamas. That's a boundary, for me. And another one is task boundaries. And what I mean by that could be an example of, taking on too much at one time. So a lot of times we go back to what we said earlier. It's hard for us to say no sometimes because we always say yes because we want to help. We want to contribute. We want to help other people at work. We want to help other people, at home and in the community as well. So we overcommit those things. So one thing is we have to learn to say, I really want to help you with that, but I just can't take that on right now. I've just got too much that I'm doing. I just want to be honest with you. I can't take it on right now. And that third one is emotional boundary. And that is where we take on maybe the concerns, not to be helpful or those in that regard, but we take on other people's emotions sometimes. And we try to help them because we want to be the helpers. We want them to be happy and we want to help them with their problem. But sometimes that is consuming, for us. Not that we can't listen and not that we can't, communicate with them and give them words of encouragement and lift them up. I don't mean that, but I mean, again, we have to be careful that we protect ourselves too, because taking on that emotional boundary sometimes is hard and difficult for us, and it weighs heavy, and it takes a lot of energy for us to do that. So where do we start? Where do we start this thing about work-life balance? Let's start with work. So raise your hand. I can't see you. Well, I can see some of you, but I want you to actually raise your hand. Raise your hand if these things that you've ever experienced these things on the job. One is you had double book priorities. That is me. I've done that, double book priorities. You've had a last minute emergency at work. That's happened to me. You have competing deadlines. That's happened to me as well. Or maybe miscommunication about a time. You had it at one time, someone had it at a different time, and there was miscommunication and no one showed up at all. So that's happened to me too. Great teams do not end up with aligned calendars. They build them on purpose. I'm going to say that again. Great teams do not end up with aligned calendars. They build them on purpose. Ever sat in a meeting before and you thought this could have been an email? You can raise your hand for that because I have. I've been in meetings where I thought this could have been an email very easy. But I wanted to have a meeting and that took time from our day to get to the meeting, prepare for the meeting that we didn't know. And then we got there, we thought this could have been an email. So what happens when our team calendar is not aligned? What happens? Some of the things that happen sometimes is we have a lot of stress, on the team because they're not aligned and things are misaligned.
Good. I'm on a conference call.
We miss goals.
Yeah.
Oh, I think I heard somebody. Nope. Oh, okay. We miss goals because, again, we're not aligned. So the things that we had set out to do at the beginning of the year, the beginning of the quarter, we missed those things because we were not aligned and we didn't plan or schedule or calendar for those things. Conflict sometimes happens within the team when we're not aligned with our calendars. Burnout happens very easy. It's just so frustrating. We've got so much to do and no one thought to schedule the trip that we have to go on next month for a convention. No one put that on the calendar and now we're double booked and now we have to be somewhere else and we have to be somewhere the week before and we have to be somewhere the week after. So we don't have a lot of time to plan. So sometimes that can create some burnout, within the team. And then poor execution. If we don't plan for it, we don't schedule for it, we don't make it important enough to put on the calendar, then we're not going to be able to execute it. And that's what we're here to do in our jobs every day is to make sure that we have a strategy that includes execution. So we can plan, but we got to have some point where we execute too. So what I'm going to share with you today are 5 steps, like a framework that kind of helps you have more clarity when you have team meetings to be able to align those calendars together. So the first one is we want to make sure that we anchor the immovable dates. We want to anchor the immovable dates, which means if you have corporate deadlines, like if every quarter there's going to be a deadline where you have to turn in some type of reporting or a project update every quarter at some point, or if you have to turn in some kind of financials, we want to make sure those things are scheduled throughout the whole year because those are immovable for us. Those are already set by someone else and we have to follow that. Conferences. I don't know where you are and what you do, but here at the WFCA, we have many different types of road shows we do. We have conferences throughout the year. We have customer visits throughout the year. So we want to make sure those things get put on the calendar first, and then we build around those things. Again, I talked about reporting deadlines. Holidays. Holidays are very important. We definitely do not ever want to miss a holiday. So we want to make sure that all those holidays or in-service days or whatever days that we're not going to be in the office, all those are going to be able to be planned out for the year on everyone's calendar within the team. And then, of course, any kind of major event that you would have within your office, if you may have where you have like a Pride Day, where you go out and you have your departments come together on this day and they get rewarded for things. They get they kind of interact, do a networking event with each other, whatever those things are that you have throughout the year for celebrations. You want to make sure those things get scheduled on the team calendar so everyone's understanding that we're on this week or this day, this is what's happening for the whole entire team. You want to start by placing things that can't be moved, and those are the things that are immovable dates. Step 2, very simple. Then you want to add major initiatives, and that can be different for all of us. It could be projects. You may have a lot of projects that you work on, within your job. We want to make sure those come second because those are important too, because they're going to have deadlines more or less. If you're going to launch anything, you're going to launch a new product, you're going to launch a new method, you're going to launch a new program, whatever it may be, you want to make sure those launch dates are also scheduled on the team calendar. You don't want to miss those. Any kind of campaigns, or even if you have a hiring push. If you're looking to hire someone, on a job, we want to make sure that we have time scheduled in for those interviews and for us to sit down and go through resumes, whether it be paper resumes or online. We want to make sure we have time scheduled for that so we don't miss it. And we're not trying to cram it in before the person comes in the door, for the interview. Where do you see overload? And that's going to be our next step is how do we identify the capacity conflicts on our team? Because, sometimes we say we're at capacity or we don't have a lot of bandwidth. And sometimes that means that we've taken on too much, or there's just too much going on that we haven't scheduled for, on the team calendar, or even on our personal calendar, and work starts coming in and home starts coming in. So how do we look at that overload? How do we have those conversations together, as a team? Do we have stacked deadlines? Are there things that are just on top of each other? Are there things that kind of conflict as far as a deadline on the same day? And we have those competing deadlines that happen. Where's our busy season? We want to make sure that we allow a lot of time during the busy season. Is it more in the summer, or is it more in the spring, or is it more in the fall? We want to make sure that we allow some freedoms, some open dates in between that team calendar, because we know we're going to have busy times that things are going to sneak in and they're going to sneak up on us. We want to make sure that we, pay respect to that and be able to give it attention to. Number 4 is the sequence and adjust. So we've talked a little bit about what are those immovable dates, things that have to be scheduled for that we had no control over, but we're participating in or responsible for those immovable dates. Then we added in our major initiatives, anything that we have as a team, for our job, we're going to add those things in too. So now we need to make some adjustments to those things. Where do we need to adjust? Do we need to move items around a little bit as a team and kind of make it more workable for us? Do we need to balance the workload? Do we need to have a conversation to say, where are you struggling? What's working for you? Do you have capacity? Or are you able to kind of jump in and help with some of these things too? So just looking at that balanced workload too. We don't want to overwork anyone. We don't want anyone to have the burnout, feel like they're overloaded too. What needs to be moved so we can succeed? What are some things that we do need to move around? Because we want to be successful with this calendar. We want to be successful on our job. And then we need to ask decisive questions about, do we really need to have this? Does this really need to be important at this date and this time, or is it something that we can move? We need to have those conversations too. Also, with examples of that is what needs to happen first. So do we have a sequence of events? So if we have something scheduled, let's say that we are going to go on a road show, or we have a big meeting that we're going to be away from the office for 2 or 3 days, or if we're going to have a conference of some sort, we need to also build in that time to be able to get materials ready. Whatever that may look like. There may be printing involved or ordering involved, too, shipping involved. So how do we back that up and make sure that we're scheduling for those things as well? Not just for the conference itself or the road trip itself or whatever the case may be, but we're scheduling time with the team to be able to prepare for these things so we feel prepared, when we go. What conflict does this create? So is there some kind of conflict within the team that someone's going to be on vacation that week, or 2 people are going to be on vacation that week, or someone's going to be out this day or that day? So how do we fill in those blanks? How do we have those conversations that we have the understanding of we're here for you as a team, and we're going to make sure these things get scheduled? And the last step that I'm going to talk about too is how do we assign ownership and hold others accountable? And that's a biggie too sometimes as we look at ownership, because all of us on the team do have ownership of this. Example, who owns it? So if there's something, a project, an update, a financial report, or a report out, who's going to be in charge of it? Who's going to own this to make sure this happens? Who's going to be accountable for it? What is the deadline? It's very important to know, when do you need this? When does this have to be done so we can schedule for that? And what support is needed? Is there someone else on the team that needs to kind of step up and step in to help, with this project too, to make sure that we meet the deadline and to make sure it's done successfully? Ownership creates execution, and I love that. Ownership creates execution. We also, before we leave the meeting, we want to check for understanding to make sure everyone understands what we talked about, what we discussed. So we never want to leave the meeting with guessing, well, maybe we can do that, or we can possibly do that, or we'll see about that at the next meeting. We never want to leave feeling like that. We want to leave with questions answered, duties assigned to people, ownership being taken as well. So we always want to leave with someone owning. Who's the owner of this? We want to clarify that. What's the due date? What's the deadline that you have for that? And what was the decision that was made to be able to do that or to execute that? We always want to leave with those things. When you look at framework, and I get asked a lot about how do we frame up the meeting? Like, if we're going into a staff meeting or a planning meeting, what does it kind of need to look like? If we're going to implement all 5 of these steps, then what kind of time do we need within the meeting? And I think it's a great question. And so what I've looked at is, it's very simple. to be able to adapt. Again, this is going to be in one of your PDF files that Maddie's going to attach. So you'll have that later. You don't have to write all the notes down. But, spend about 5 minutes at the beginning of the meeting and talk about the purpose of this meeting and what we want the outcome to be. So what are the expectations that we want? Maybe even going around the room and a little bit talk about, for 5 minutes, what are you thinking? What do you need today? What's expected from you today? What do you expect the meeting to look like when we're done with this meeting today? What does it need to look like? What should we have covered and what should we have decided in this meeting? So spend 5 minutes or so kind of going through that and talking about that as a team. And then take about 10 minutes and then look at how do we need to adjust and fix our dates. Let's review our calendar from last time. Let's make sure that we're still in alignment with each other. Let's make sure there's been no surprises. Or if we need to make adjustments, let's talk about that as we go through the meeting. So spend some time fixing those dates. Do we need to add any major initiatives? Let's spend 10 minutes or 15 minutes talking about, has anything come up that we didn't plan for from the last meeting that we need to make some adjustments? What are some of those major initiatives that happen on our day-to-day? Schedules get changed. Deadlines get moved. So what are some things we need to review and make sure that we're still on top of it with the team calendar? Has there been any conflicts? So what we talked about last meeting, was there a conflict for anyone? Was something a struggle? Was it difficult to execute? Were there issues with that? Let's talk about that for 10 minutes. And then 10 minutes to just make those adjustments and to kind of finalize some of those things. Let's just go back and move around. Let's spend 10 minutes talking about those things and get those things adjusted. And then let's spend 10 minutes assigning ownership again, making sure the owners or the project or the responsibility or the task is with the right person. And then who's accountable for that? Let's make sure we all understand before we leave the ownership and the accountability for that. So again, right there is your staff meeting, is your planning meeting, your project update meeting, is to kind of go through and think about giving it a time, assessing the time. And that way we don't have time wasted. Because again, the whole point of this is we don't have time wasted. That we utilize the time that we do have. We have 24 hours in a day, every day, but it's our decision on how we use it. It's by the choices that we make. So again, we all have the same amount of time. And I know people just like you do, that you feel like they get so much more done in a day than I do. And I know those people. And I want to be like those people, too. But again, it's assessing where we are at work and assessing where we are at home and being in charge of that calendar, and the calendar not being in charge, of you. So again, let's talk a little bit about a review of what we just kind of talked about. We want to make sure that clarity always reduces our stress. So when there's clarity with the calendar, when there's clarity in the team, when there's clarity in the conversation about where we're spending our time, then there's going to be less stress on the team and less stress for you in your personal life too, when you can manage that personal calendar. Alignment increases execution. So when we are more aligned as a team, we function better as a team. We function as a high-performing team when we're on the same page and we're aligned and not having to deal with those conflicts on the calendar. Planning prevents failure. I love that one. I need a big poster that says planning prevents failure, because it does. So we got to make plans for those things that happen. One thing I'm going to share, this is going to be a very quick class today. I'm going to give you some time back. So you should be thankful for that. I read something recently and I wanted to kind of share it with you guys, because I thought it resonated with me. And I was preparing this material. It kind of made me think about those big rocks, those big moments in our lives. I say all this today to talk about, yes, it's very important that we spend our time wisely at work. And then we are aligned as a team when it comes to, responsibilities, when it comes to tasks and jobs that we do every day. It's very important that we do those things. But also we can't forget the important things in our personal lives. And those are our big rocks, like we said earlier, faith, family, friends, whatever the big rocks are, for you, because those things, I feel like older I get, those things go by quicker and quicker and quicker. And time seems to fly by for me as I get older. So I saw this recently and I wanted to kind of share it with you because I thought it was really good to kind of close out what we kind of talked about today with how we look at that work-life balance and the big rocks that we have. And it says this: do you know what time steals quietly? The moments you thought would last forever. One day it's family dinners, crowded tables with loud laughter. The next, chairs are empty. People move, life changes, and suddenly those ordinary nights come priceless memories. And you never realize you're living the good old days until they are already behind you. It won't be the big celebrations you miss. It'll be the small, simple moments you overlooked. The late night talks, the silly arguments, the comfort knowing that everyone was still there. While you still can, slow down, because one day, even ordinary moments will feel like gold. So tell me, what is one simple memory you wish you could go back to just once more? I thought that was so impactful to be able to think about those little moments in our lives. Sometimes we think about those big celebrations, the big things that happen in our lives, or the things we remember the most. And we do remember those things, but sometimes it's just the one-on-one time that we have with the family, the conversations that we have from day to day, and making time for those things and not overlooking those things is so very, very important. I'll share a personal one with me. At my house, it's just me and the husband and the dogs, no children, just the dog. The dogs are enough. Trust me, they're enough. But our thing in the night, in the afternoon, is we're very committed to this. Is when we get home and the weather's good, because I'm hot natured. I don't like hot weather. I know I'm the weirdo of the bunch, but I don't like hot weather. Is we go out every night and we sit on the front porch. We have rocking chairs. We're old people. We're old. We old. We're rock. We wait people that go by on our road. But every night that's something that's important to me. I don't want to miss that. But I have to be intentional because I get busy. I'm doing the laundry. I'm folding the clothes. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. And he's sitting out there. And I'm thinking, I need to go out there. I need to go out there. So I do. And that's the little moments. We have the most insightful, world changing conversation sitting on that porch in the rocking chair. And so that's my best time of the day, is to be able to go home and kind of unload my day on him and he unloads his on me and we have conversations. But you got to make time for those things. Those things are very important. Those are the moments that we're here for, is to be able to share that with others. So I say all that to say, I am giving you some time back today to eat your lunch or to enjoy the rest of your lunch hour. I'm very honored to be able to do this today with you all and to be with you. I hope I get to do more. I hope they ask me back. I hope they do. I hope they ask me back, because I really did enjoy it. But I want to thank Andrea and Aaron and Maddie and Lewis. Thank you for doing all the techie stuff behind the scenes that I don't know how to do any of that. So I appreciate you doing that. And thank you, ladies, for making time on your calendar to be with us today. You could have made a choice to do something different. You could have had a fun lunch somewhere with somebody, but you chose to be here with us, and I appreciate that. I really do. So thank you. Thank you for that. Aaron, I'll turn it back to you, I think. Maybe.
Thank you, Michelle. That was wonderful.
Thank you.
We just have one last thing. So we have a survey that here's the feedback form. Maddie just dropped it in the chat. It's a quick survey. We really utilize this information, right? A lot of us on the committee are volunteers. We want to use our time wisely, right? And make sessions that are important to you. So we really appreciate you if you have the time to fill out the feedback, because we do utilize it. And with this one, you have a chance to win a free copy of our book club coming up. So
that's great.
Please consider doing that if you have time. And without further ado, thank you again to everyone, especially Michelle.
Thank you.
I just loved the content of that. So thank you all. We'll give you back 20 minutes,
Yes.
And I hope everyone has a great rest of the day. Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.